Growing up, I was often ridiculed, often teased, just for simply being me. I decided to speak to my 12-year-old self because then in growing up, I've realized a lot about who I was then and who I have become now. And I'm able to reflect back on those experiences and see how um, culture, not just the color of my skin, but that more so culture played a huge part in many of the communication barriers that I experienced as an adolescent in the public school system of Chicago, and even when I relocated here to Lexington, Kentucky. Um, in Chicago, I lived in what would be considered an esteemed, a luxurious apartment complex, which was directly across the street from one of the ghettos of Chicago. And my school was within a couple of blocks. It's set between where I lived and where many of my peers lived. And unfortunately, many of them were broken. Many of them were abused. Many of them came from homes with absent fathers and mothers who were either too busy working or just completely withdrawn from them, and they were, in a sense, stuck raising themselves. And so, when we would come to school, I was often the center of their nerd jokes. I was often criticized and ostracized because I always chose to take the high road. There was just a huge divide between myself and my peers, and the school that I attended was predominantly black. And today I don't fit the stereotype for young African American men. And so even today I find myself trying to find my niche. I'm married, I have children now, so I find a lot of acceptance and approval in my marriage and don't look for it as much outside of that. But in the workplace, it is it can at times be very awkward because I'm not black enough to be accepted by my peers who may look at me as being above myself or may feel inferior to me for whatever reason. I love people. I truly love people. And that's the last thing I want anyone to ever feel. And then I'm not white enough for those who are white. The color of my skin separates me from being able to create lasting and real genuine relationships with many of my white counterparts. So my identity crisis is that I'm just stuck in the middle, trying to figure out where I belong. But I have become comfortable not fitting in, and I've become comfortable not conforming because I understand who God has created me to be. I understand my purpose. I understand my reason for existence. And in understanding that, I have a brand new perspective. I don't look to fit in with blacks or fit in with whites. I look to just love people. And in loving and in serving people, people will be able to look beyond the color of my skin and look beyond my mannerisms to see my heart. And that's my only desire.